Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains, and welcome to another layout design video. In this video, I'm going to show the process of designing a layout so you can make better layouts and track plans yourself. So today we're going to squeeze the entire Los Angeles on a 4x8. I've often said that on these tabletop designs 4x8s, you really don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's just not that many options on a 4x8. So opening the books, here we see a whole variety of different variants that you can base your layout and your track plan on. So what to choose? Well, let's look at the prototype first, because that might give us some guidance. So here is a Los Angeles, and for today, we're going to be looking and focusing on the AT&SF Harbor Subdivision, and this is that section of the track. And more specifically, we're going to be focusing on this north section. So let's just have a look and see what the prototype can tell us about different track arranges and aspects that we want in our design. So the client wanted us to start here at the Malabar yard. So that's right here, and on the right you see some images of that yard just to give an idea of the scenery and the space and just the level of maintenance, everything we want to capture in the new design. So we see a lot of road crossings and a lot of, barren land. It's a bit scrubby, messy in places as well. We'll see more of that in a minute, I assure you. So exiting the yard, you see it's a single line, and you'll see in a lot of places there's a road, and there's some open land, and then there's a track, and then immediately next to it are structures, fences, a mess, anything like that. Looking back on the left, we see black is the main line, and we see all these industry spurs that just pop off. That's, I think, a key feature that we need to look at, because that's basically the case all over here. There's no real siding, passing siding, anything like that. It's just a single line. So just slowly moving on. This is Slauson Avenue. That's something we want to model, because zooming out again, like I said, we're only modeling the north section, and that basically is Slauson Avenue. So that's going to be a key feature. Now, we also want some scenery dividers, some places where the train, hides somehow out of view. It can be a large group of trees, but you see it can also be an overpass. This one here, and moving on Slauson, I think we have a great idea of what's happening right here. It's basically more of the same. I do want to note this interstate that crosses the road right here. If we look at Google Maps, just to get a little bit better impression of the scenery. Then this is Slauson Avenue right here in the middle of the screen. You can see it's heard from Google Maps. I don't know if you've been on Google Maps just before, you see that it is quite messy. It is, there's just a lot of junk here. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. A lot of junk and stuff, left, right, and center. So that is a great feature to model. We keep heading to the west. One feature I do want to point out, several actually. One of them, look at all the residential areas, and second here is that interstate that crosses or flies over the Slauson Avenue where our track is. Looking at this is a great scene, this scene divider, but you can never ever really put this on 4x8 because it's too big. But maybe this off ramp might work, so let's keep that in mind. So now let's go to the books. Going through all the 4x8 options, you need to keep in mind what we saw. We saw this long road with all these tracks bending off, and what kind of track plan might fit. This one definitely doesn't. It's steel. This one has a loop. We don't really have the space for that because it's going to be sitting against the wall. This one is way too much track. This one here might work because it has one track bending off, but then again, it has these double track spurs and a big siding there. We don't really have that. And you go through it like that. And this one actually caught my eye because it has a lot of interesting operational features, and it has quite a long run if you would take it in that direction. And reading this article is actually based on another design that was made earlier. Let me just get that design at this book, and you see here there's more options. This is an older book, so you see there's a lot more of these. Yeah, let's call them spaghetti bowls and ovals on ovals. So that's more the old way of thinking. It gets even worse, to be honest. but it also has this sign, and this is the original right there. And just see, it doesn't really differ that much from this one. Now, the scenery is totally not what we're going for. This is Turtle Creek Central. Out of all the Turtle Creeks, Central Turtle Creek, and it's super rural. This one is a little bit better. If you can see, it has some industries on it. But we're not going to look at that. Forget about the scenery. Look at the elements that are here. There's a yard, there's a road, quite obvious. There's some taller structures to break the scene. There's some open area here to break the scene. And there is in both designs, which I think is key, there is a creek. So that is basically a scenic element where the track interacts with bridges, as you see here. There's a rock mountainous area here, so there's a tunnel where you go underneath, and those are important aspects. Both designs have that. This one has also a bridge that goes under the track, and this one has a bridge that goes over the track. So that's why I chose this design, but we need to make it more specific to the harbor sub and make it more LA like downtown LA, and not this Turtle Creek Central. So back to the computer. So here is one of the original sketches that I did. This is basically how I sketch. You get the different components, and I do line them up, but so you can still move them around. You can put this guy here, you can put that guy there, etc. Just to make sure that what you have in your mind might actually work. So as you see, I did have this original track make this curve right here, and then the bend here to the right. But at some point, I was thinking, why in heaven's name would this track make this curve? Because you can just go from here, you can just go straight to there with a straight piece of track. So I scrapped this at some point. That's all I wanted to mention. Now let's go to the final design. So here's the final track plan. So you see, I took this curve out. This switchback right there, but I did leave it in straight ahead like this. This is a really fun feature for operating, to have the switchback. So that's why I really wanted that in here. And that's also what originally drew me to the design. Now we added 2 more spurs here that bend off. You'll see why the shape is the shape it is in a minute. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a 4x8. We don't have a lot of space. And we're using sectional track as well, which is another limitation because it just doesn't have a lot of flexibility and variety in it. So you'll see in the design that it really makes the best use of the space. I added another spur right here for some more industries. And then we go up here, and this is where the layout can stop. So we'll just have an industry right here. But if you have the space, what would really help with operations is to have just a small extension plank like this to have another industry, or to move that industry to this extension, and to have 2 tracks for staging as well. That would really help with operations. So let's just go through the design as we would be traveling from a Malabar yard here onto Slauson, and we pass some of the industries. And do note the line does continue, so that is going to be modeled as well. And in the end, we go all the way here past the airport to El Segundo. That's this massive petrochemical industry right here. And here's the layout with all the scenery. Let's just go through it step by step. We start here in Malabar Yard, 2 tracks. That's plenty some for a layout of this size. And first we just make some miles. We go behind these structures right here at the front of the layout, or the side of the layout, tuck underneath viaducts. And then here are the first set of industries. So we have this one right here with the switchback. We went over that. The line does continue in this direction, just to suggest that the world is bigger than what we are modeling. And this could be an extension to another set of industries, as the prototype has as well further down the line. And here we have these 2 spurs as well. And the track is in this shape because you want to have this one, or I want to have this one parallel to the road, and this one just a bit offset, so you can have a little bit more scenic interest right here, and not to make everything super square and rigid. There is a little straight section track right here, so the road doesn't go over the turnouts, so it's a little bit easier to make as well. You do need to keep that in mind, those aspects. Then we just continue along the line, and we will continue like this, across the road, and then we're going parallel to Slauson Avenue. That is this larger 4-lane road right here. Now this does take up a lot of real estate, but I do think it's important and interesting to model. That's really a key feature scenery-wise. There's another industry right here. Cross another road under the off-ramp of the highway, and then we're at the end of the layout. So there's the industry here. Like I said, we can connect it to this area right here, and then the industry on the top left here would disappear. This would be some housing here, some residential area, and the residential area continues on the extension. And then we have one industry here on the left, one track, and then 2 staging tracks right there. Now, some elements to point out. I already mentioned that the roads don't cross the turnout, so it's over there, and here the road bends off as well. And do you remember the original design with these scenic elements right here? Well, we basically have the same. We have some taller structures here in the middle, some fast food joint, then a larger industry building in the middle. And here we have a vacant lot to open up the scenery a bit, as the original design had as well. And then here the road ducts underneath the track. So that's one of the elements where the track plan interacts with the scenery. And this is also typical to what you can find in the prototype. Another seating element would be here the off-ramp. So like I said, we do not have enough space to model the entire interstate, but we can model the off-ramp. And I think that's a great compromise. You see the track really dives underneath, goes behind it, and comes back right here. And this also is a great scenic opportunity to really model some nice and grimy stuff going on underneath the interstate. So you see, there's a lot going on in this small space. And now let's look at the line diagram, because the line diagram is important when you're operating. And here it is. And at first glance, once I made it, I thought, holy moly, can we fit all this in a 4x8? And yes, we fit all this in a 4x8. So let's just start. So let's have a look. We start here at the Malabar yard at the left. And we have this track A. And you're going to need this if you want to do runarounds. And what is this track A? Let's quickly zoom back to the design. Track A is this section right here. Just this small piece of track right here. Because this basically shortcuts the point-to-point operation and makes a loop, so you can have continuous running. But you're also going to need this loop if you want to do a runaround. So that's great. So another way to use this point A is, for example, if you have a small layout and you want to operate it, then you can have a rule in place that if you want to go from Malabar yard to, for example, this industry, they need to pass A at least once before you go to the industry, thus creating a longer run. This might not be for everyone, but some people do this. So you see the unmodeled branch that continues here, and all the various industries. Point A comes back. I just drew Slauson Avenue and then Santa Fe Avenue in there. And here at the other end is staging as well. So how would one operate this layout? Well, for example, you can have a local departing from Malabar yard and switching the various industries, going all the way to El Segundo, and then picking up some more cars that it switches on the way back. Or you could have a local that leaves from El Segundo and only serves the various industries, and have a separate job, go from El Segundo all the way to Malabar yard to switch out some cars and then to head back to El Segundo. And these cars that are just added to Malabar yard then can be switched again by the local at the various industries. So this will keep you busy for quite a long time. Now you can download this track plan and all the supporting files to build it on my Patreon page, so do have a look there. And click the video that you see on your screen right now for more great content. Thank you, that's it for today. Bye bye.